I'm not even out of the car yet, and I look, and my own plane is flying on a back circle. How did this happen?
Rusty again is a myth.
Look at this.
And the great Alexander is missing again.
There's Strega flying, and I'm in a car, so what's going on?
Like that.
Anyway, we got an interesting thing going on today. Old Strega. Thing's 150 years old and still flying. How does he do this?
White shit. You know,
We don't say shit on video. It's poops.
Oh, poops.
Poops.
White
Potty mouth.
crap. Garbage.
Okay, but see how shiny this is,
Yeah,
Frankie?
yeah.
If you want to glue this, you got to scuff it up with 80 grit paper.
I know.
Look at this nice shirt he's got. This is the guy we fixed his cowling. We're going to see it probably fall off today when he's flying. By the way, that warranty just ran out.
I had a 25-minute flight.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Put it on and see if it breaks. The only way you're going to know is get it.
I'm gonna mold.
But see, you got to scuff this. I don't know if that epoxy I used is going to hold. But the worst can happen. Yeah, the worst that can happen. It's not going to be any worse than it was.
The thing is, when you cut these, it's tricky.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because first you got to line the holes up.
Exactly.
Then you got to get all this cut out just right, and you don't cut too much of it. But that's what weakens it, the minute you cut it. So what I was thinking...
What you do before you cut the next one, fiberglass or carbon...
I was going to ask you, could you put a layer in here for me?
Yeah, here's what you do. Take this home, take 80 grit paper and make it as rough as can be.
Yeah,
like
right.
it's like the dirt.
Right.
Then give it back to me the next time I see you.
Oh, right.
I'll glass it all up, then cut it.
All right.
I'll put in 3-4 layers of glass because you don't care about the weight. Who cares what it weighs?
Not up in the nose.
Nice shirt, by the way. I like this.
Yeah.
See,
Well,
see Frank, you can buy one of these B-25 shirts for $10 or whatever it is. My wife paid for these.
I paid...
They're nice. I like them.
I didn't pay this much. I paid $12 for this.
Now, what do they have in combat today?
No,
Antique combat or something?
It's a picnic. It's a picnic.
Oh, okay. All right, let's see the Cub go.
Yeah, picnic.
Picnic. I heard it was a booze strip party for Hooters girls. I guess I lose, huh?
I heard something about picking up bricks.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, the truth is Brian Manow has been, this is Brian's 4-stroke, and he's got 2 strokes and 3 strokes. But he's got this Mirko, and I thought it would be a good test just to get it in a plane that was the right weight. He's been flying it in some 90-ounce thing. How's this working? It looked pretty good when I pulled in a lot.
That's the first flight. I've been waiting for you.
Oh, well, I got a family, you know. I got to sleep in the morning.
I didn't know, you know, if you've been here earlier in the past.
No, yeah, it's going to be good all day. The Sussex Air Show is today, too, you know. We could run up there. If the air goes bad, I'm going to jump in the car and go up the air show.
That's got to be crazy crowded up there.
They said there's going to be a B-25 there. Well, I doubt if we're going to go because Karen made some plans today. And you know who's the boss on Sunday. Hey, this looks good. Hey, Rich Oliver's coming up to the contest.
Yeah, I don't see, I know the name, but I don't know the name.
The jet guy, Road Jet.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
So if you wanna mug him and take a motor, you know, we could mug him, give him a taste of New York hospitality, beat him up and take all his Road Jets. It'll be fun. How did it feel the first flight, okay?
It's a little light, it's just chugging along.
What prop you got on there?
I got a 13.6 Zinger.
12.5. Take that prop and throw it away. 12.5 is going to be the prop.
Yeah, this thing stumbles along.
I think a 12.5. Well, let's try it one. You got plenty of good air here. Who's flying? Cooper? All right, after.
I run it, you fly it and see what you think. Good work. Going up.
Poor Strega. Poor Strega. He fit right in without a problem.
It was a little snug because this engine is.
The engine's a little wider than the Tiger or a Jet.
It's not wider this way, but it's wider down below. The Tiger has a round. This is very squared off.
Right.
I actually took a little metal off of this.
Okay.
And the lugs here were actually a tad wider, so it was a tight squeeze in there, so I just hit them with the grinder.
Yeah, but we want to be able to put all the motors in all the planes. This nonsense that you can't change motors.
Oh yeah, no, it was real close. It was...
What do you got, a restrictor in the Venturi?
Yeah, because it's open to 328.
Oh, that's too big.
So now
put an air filter on it too.
Now it's down to a little under 300, 290 something.
Well, I think you just need Hampshire to get some compression in this. It's real low in compression. These motors come through, you never know. Not that we know, but. Here is we'll try to get a ballpark prop on it. And if the Venturi's too big, you can always put an air filter on it too, Bri.
Yeah, well, I went 2 directions with this thing, and now I'm going back to where I started. But it still don't burn anywhere near 6 ounces. I can run 4 ounces.
Oh no, then you got the compression way too low. Up the compression. Get Tommy to take 20 thousandths off the head.
Well,
Tommy here today?
Run yet. No, I haven't seen
it. It's got to use an ounce a minute. If it doesn't use an ounce a minute, you're going to fry the motor.
If he already didn't.
If he already didn't, yeah. Strega's, oh, buy me a motor, buy me a Jet 65, Brian. Brian, take some of that money out of the bank. Tell your wife she can't go on vacation, but buy me a Jet 65. A nice side exhaust one will fit right in. Oh no, a pipe one will fit. Oh, buy 2 of them, Brian. What do you think? What do you think, Mike? I don't think so.
Well, all the $100 motors you bought, you could have bought one.
You could have invested in jet technology, and you'd have 3 or 4 jets instead of all this crazy English stuff. Yeah, he'll get it running. I have full confidence in you, Bri.
Yeah. Otherwise, it goes on goes in the drawer with the.
The drawer. I have a drawer home too. How do you like your Tiger 60, Mike? They're running good?
Very good.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, it goes in the drawer with the MVVS.
You got to make a little modifications for that one muffler.
Oh, how much? Just a little grindstone?
I think we got to go into the wing a little bit.
No, I don't have to go into the wing.
Well, I only had the thin one on you.
Put no head. You don't need a gasket on this. Run it with no gasket. It'll be better.
Taking it out.
That's why you got no power. The compression's too low.
Running on 10% fuel too. So.
Oh, I didn't know. I would have brought my 20%, but it's just easier to. The easiest thing is get the compression up to where it should be. See, this may work fine in England where it's always cold, you know, but here it's 90 degrees today. We'll see if my cowling repair from last week is going to hang on here. Anyway, we were not sure about the polycarbonate, or whatever the material is. It looks like PVC pipe they make these cowlings out of. And the reason they use it, of course, it's very inexpensive material, but it's not strong. So what I think we're going to do is get Frankie to take his spare cowl, sand it all down. Oh, here we go. Sand it all down, and then we'll try to put maybe some 4-ounce carbon or something inside of it. Now we'll see how it works. Just for the record, this plane is now officially 10 years old. Celebrating his 10th birthday here with the 200th motor. If you're going to make a plane, make it that every motor fits in. This has that clamp. Well, you don't need clamps with this because it fits right where a Tiger 60 does, but we have the clamps for this if we need them. If you took the shim out, you're going to have to open the needle a little bit too, Bri. And I think they got Mike being the test pilot here. Good thing we have test pilots because I get bored doing this. Just flying around is not my thing. So Brian's convinced it was the battery, right? Oh man. I don't know about these guys. No, they never charge the battery. They buy the NiCads that you never have to charge. How can that happen? Yeah, a little more. This will be wrong. Yep. The tension doesn't even seem too far off. Anyway, we're laughing at everything, but we really do. This motor just does need, I think, in my opinion, it just needs a little work on the head to up the compression so it uses the right amount of fuel. And maybe an air filter on that Venturi, and I think it'd be pretty decent. But then what do I know? Anyway, they're getting ready for they're having several other events here today, so I don't know how long we're going to be able to run our little Merco test program. So far, the Cowling hasn't fallen off. He's on his second flight here, and we were expecting the Cowling to come flying off of this thing, but it looks like our repair, well, we'll see at the end of the day. Anyway, we're really trying to get a handle on if we can fix these things, because a lot of the scale guys, even some of the SIG kits, the Chipmunk and stuff, have these polycarbonate parts and nothing sticks to it. It's really hard to get the stuff to stick. Anyway, we'll find out. We'll know more at the end of this day. And it looks like it's going to be a nice day. One of the features of our, what amounts to be club picnic, they bill it as a club picnic, but in coordination with the town, and they've got about 15 young kids here today, they'll get a free flight on the club trainer, or more than one flight, as the case may be. Roy here's doing on one side, and Mary usually does a lot of the, Mary Knight does a lot of the training of the young people, and usually we pick up 1 or 2 members. So some young kids that have some interest, at least give them a little taste of what model aviation used to be like, or is, or was, or whatever. And they got a pretty good turnout for this today. It looks like there's a couple kids waiting in the wings here.
Maybe the winter.
Al Knight's got a half-A ship he's demonstrating here for the illustrious newcomers. Looks like it needs a little nose weight. Maybe we could put Brian's Merco in this thing. Brian, you want to donate your Merco to this cause? So I think Brian is going to get, within the next couple of weeks, get this working a lot better than it is, but it still needs some tune work on it. It still needs the compression up. And we still need to decide which prop this is going to give this a reasonable motor run. There are 2 things left to do on this guy. Another Brodak Cardinal, as if there weren't enough of these in the world. Every time you come to the club field, there's 2 more new ones. Another event they're going to have this afternoon, and I don't know if I'm going to stay for this, 4-stroke combat. Another thing that looks like it's going to be another one of the more popular events in the club. 4-stroke combat. On these fun days, they make these events up as they go along, I think. 4-stroke Pampa stunt. PA-51 stunt. Who took the free bagels? They took them down there?
I took them down there.
They took the free bagels away. We had free bagels here for the last hour, and all of a sudden they're gone.
Still free.
There's going to be an antique combat contest this afternoon.
I don't know.
They were practicing yesterday.
We got a few antique combat planes.
What's the rules? It has to be 50 years old or something? Or the pilots have to be 50 years old.
We're making up the rules.
We're making up the rules. I like that. Yeah, they ought to do that. Well, they do it in control line stunt.
Strega?
Definitely.
Well, I think we suspended the... The pilot has to be in it.
Yak 9.
The Monty Python. I heard Banjock. I don't like spam.
Search for the Holy Grail.
Potty mouth.
The search for Mike Costello's train layout.
You keep looking.
Hey, your plane looked good on the cover of the paper, man. That ballerina was really cool.
Cover of what?
You didn't say to cover the newspaper?
What newspaper?
You didn't. Frankie's got an extra copy. It's on the front page of the Bergen Record in color. It is, I swear to God. Your plane. Where's Frankie? There's the, look. Look at this. Take that page. Give me that newspaper. Get over here. Show Ostello. He doesn't know he's on the cover of the news. This is our local newspaper. 8 million more. These go out. No. Right up here. You got control line.
We got Saunders Humongous. Right?
Now go to the part of the page. You're on the cover, Mike. You're literally a legend in your own time.
I gave them.
You know what it cost me to get this in the paper? I had to pull a lot of strings. You like that?
Whatever
strings,
it is,
right?
you're not getting it back.
I'm losing money on this.
Centerfold.
Look, Carl doesn't know how to read the paper. You can tell. You ever been around a newspaper? Look at this. Look at a ballerina. Check this out. Ballerina, Banjock's plane. The Dragon.
It says precision stunt plane.
Well, that's kind of an oxymoron. Look at this. Hey.
There it is. Kevin, their celebrity.
Look at that. Look, you're the celeb?
Eric.
All right.
Eric, the celebrity.
I'm Kevin. He's Eric.
Wonderful. Look at that. Now, how bad is that?
My little.
The last time I was in a paper, it took me 3 months to get out of jail.
Actually, it was.
And I had to give the car back, too, and the hubcaps.
It was twice. It was twice in a week.
Is that cool? What? Now, as Club Prez, this is the kind of publicity I really like for our club. Not that Peabody Court, scamming people stuff.
There you go, Carl.
That's wonderful.
Look, they put us right next to it, like an underwear advertisement. Or something. What is it?
No, it's reconstructive surgery. It's like crash repairs.
Crash repairs. Oh, you guys are sick. You didn't know you were in a paper, though,
No,
huh?
I did not know it.
Who's flying here? Anyway, we got a day happening here. It looks great. I was hoping to get windy. I got to go to Sussex Air. This may be the last Sussex Air Show. Some of the other youngsters getting ready for their flying lesson here. We got them lined up here. There's another one. Another one. It's a pretty good turnout here. I'm surprised. You'd be amazed at how much fun some of these kids have. Some of these kids have never seen a model airplane. They're in a world of computers. They don't get exposed to a lot of these kind of things. They love the smell. They love the sound. Kids for the Learn to Fly Day. Who's getting a lesson now? Roy's giving the lessons. Here's this young man's father launching a plane. And I believe this is the plane he built himself from the 4-H, the little program that they had going for the 4-H. Boy, the kids really love this. Fun event for anybody that doesn't know. This is called Pick Up a Brick. Look, he got his line stuck in a poison ivy over here. That's the poison Zumac. Look at the lines. The lines look like they've been driven over by a bus.
I want these to...
All right, what are the rules for the Pick Up a Brick event? No, they make the rules up as they go along?
We're getting this Sato 65 to work right.
Am I starting this?
Officially recognized event. We don't want any cheating. Look, he's got tail weight on here. Look at this. But that's right from you landing it, right?
It's true.
We'll find out if Richard Oliver really knows how to fly as good as he says he does. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Okay.
Huh?
Fuel it up, Padre. 4-stroke.
Maybe we
Look
should
at
make
these
Robert
lines.
fly.
Look at the lines. Check this out. Wait, don't pull hey! Farmer, don't pull tension. Look at this. Look at the wires he's flying on. Isn't there a safety issue involved in it? Does he have a thong on that handle? He does? He put it around his neck. Oh, we got the girl flying now. I'm getting fuel on my feet, Rich. What are you doing?
These goddamn rigging pumps don't go into the bucket far enough.
Well, we got another trainee here.
No, it's not.
Doug Moon says his pump never leaks. What are you talking about? Look at this, look at this. Is that a Doug Moon pump or a Windy pump? Oh, man.
I'm not happy.
Hey, Rich, you know what Doug Moon makes? I bet you'll want a set, too. He makes these really windy replica wheel collars. Little aluminum with a little cap. Very semi-scale. Get them.
Did you see my B25?
I'm going to snap them right on.
He's got a B25.
Yeah, he does. I know. He bought a Eureka kit.
Okay, I'm gonna go fly. You guys.
All right,
go
you
with it.
fly. Let's disconnect the lines. Hold on. Disconnect it. Let's disconnect the lines.
It's liable to just bank right.
Yeah, it'll come right back and hit us in the forehead.
Four-stroke combat. Oh, look at that nose construction. What is that, a clothespin holding that
making
up?
fun of that, man.
You
That
should have
thing's
seen
ready
it
to
before.
snap.
Paul Walker's was stronger than this. Holy
I
crap.
thought it was going to fall off and hit us in
I
the...
don't expect it's going to start right away because it hasn't yet.
Well, it's not flooded anyway.
I just ran it
What
through.
a butcher you are. I thought you were better than this. Man, this isn't my motor. Oh my God. Oh, I can't even watch this. This thing's coming apart in the air.
It started without him.
Sounded it.
Without
The freaking diesel.
it started with...
No, it started without the battery. Now it won't start with the battery. What's wrong with this motor? Oh man, what a Brian! I'm disillusioned. Oh my God! Man, what, Rich? Get your finger out of there. You're gonna get choked. I never seen such a bunch of butchers in my life. You guys are farmers. Look at this.
Perfect, and you guys adjust.
You believe this? The Keystone cops don't have this much. Uh-oh, he's got it running anyway. Somebody's gonna cut their finger off here. Embarrassing moments in the world of control line four-stroke combat. Rich, you ever hear about firing a mechanic? This is absolutely the worst I've ever seen. It doesn't get any dumber than this. Oh.
Put a prop on the starter.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds.
Four-stroke heaven is there.
No. As soon as Windy turns on that tape, nothing works.
Say that on camera. Soon as Windy turns on the tape, nothing works.
When Windy turns on the tape.
Come on, this is really embarrassing, Brian. Oh man, this is really unbelievable. Oh. We're gonna change the rules of the event. 8 minutes to start and 1 minute to fly. And as we're doing this, the kids in the back are having a lot of fun. They're having more fun than we are. To be the launch man on this plane, Rich. Oh, he's going for the car battery. Oh no, he's got to get it. He killed the first starter. Here goes the second starter. Oh man. It's hard to believe. What a club picnic this is turning out to be.
The starter goes back to the motor.
What a bunch of, oh my God.
Stalled out.
Oh, oh my God, what a bunch of dopes. Oh man. I got it on tape. I got it. Yeah, you look like an old lady throwing a laundry overboard on the Titanic. Oh, this is unbelievable. This is more fun than watching the other guys fly. Yeah, you probably ran out the fuel with the electric starter. Rich, hold the nose up so it's not sucking air. Take some fuel out. Put some fuel in. Unbelievable. You're training for being a scale pilot here or what? Oh, look, oh, he's got to have a real fuel. Yeah, don't use Peabody's fuel pump. He doesn't have the Windy approved no leak one. Unbelievable. Again, Rich wanted to shim the tank, so he stepped on it.
He stepped on it.
Isn't that the way you shim your tank?
All the time. I told him, I said, it's a little bit high, so you put it on the...
And just stepped on it.
That's about right now.
Oh, man. You sure this is...
Let's try the battery.
It's not the battery, bro.
No, I know. It started without the battery before for a second.
As George Aldridge might say, us four-strokers, too many moving parts.
I'm loving how this motor mount system works. The no vibration. That is, I'll tell
About
you,
ready to throw
quality wood selection in the construction process.
I can't open a freaking needle. I opened it all the way. Something's clogged.
You got some dirt in there. Maybe when Rich stepped on the tank, you got some dirt.
Let it go with the battery on.
Let it go with the battery. What's the difference? Oh. Oh. So here's the thing. If you're gonna have a club picnic, don't have this event.
Make it go faster.
More power!
Mayday, mayday.
You better start throwing some people overboard.
That thing couldn't pick up a lead.
Come on, my Merco's better than that. At least it's louder.
Come on, loop it, you sissy. Loop it! I'm getting hungry for a bagel just watching this. There we go. This is definitely going in. Loop it! Frankie says he can loop it better than a cub.
Yeah, I know. Why don't you get a kite?
This is a kite. I'll tell you, when you buy the low-end motors, you really get what you pay for, that's for sure. The truth is, he doesn't want anybody to know. He bought this at a garage sale for 10 bucks. The motor was included, I think. Almost too pathetic. Let's go watch something interesting. Okay, one of the new guys. This is one of the guys, I believe, that built his own plane, but I'm not sure. Oh no. Oh no, it's the kid's dad. We got the kid's dad flying now. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Overall opinion of Rich Peabody. Off with his head.
It's inverted now.
Oh, he got it inverted. Oh, this is going in. Off with his head. Oh, you got it back on its back. happens if you don't put proper nose construction in your plane? You could wind up like Rich Peabody in your old age. Any of those free bagels around?
You need one?
No. I can't risk at my weight.
On a scale before
At my weight, anybody over 200 can't get a free bagel. They have to pay for it.
They pay for it one way or
or
another.
the other.
Both ways. It's funny, after a whole day of fooling around with that crazy thing Peabody had, that profile, nothing holding the motor in, nose construction, they realized the reason it wasn't running is they had the carburetor wired shut, not open. So it never got more, I think it was open about an 1/8, but they had the idle screw locked in. Unbelievable. Never let these guys work on your plane. We leave the club picnic and it was a good afternoon. We really had a lot of fun. Hopefully got a few new members for the club. There's a person who, and I'm going to try to pull over here if I can, there's a person right up here that's got one of the prettiest gardens I've ever seen, right around the corner here. I want to try to take a picture of it if I can. Check this garden out here. Let's just give her let these people go by. Right off to my right here. Look at this motorcycles going by. Anyway, look at the garden here. I'm gonna have to bring Karen up here to see some of these flowers. Anyway, for anybody who appreciates gardens, that's a good one. It really is some garden there. Pretty neat stuff. That's some special garden out there in Lincoln Park. I got to tell you, I'm impressed with that. I'm impressed with my own swimming pond here. This is one of my favorite parts of the day. Come home after a long day of flying, eat all the baby fish, all the big fish. Free Willy over here. Where's Free Willy? And it's only a few weeks of the year that our taro is in full bloom. One of our taros. By the way, these taros come right from the circle burner field, right? The swamp that is adjacent to it. As the fish jump out of the water trying to get the extra little bit of food. Very relaxing out here. Nice afternoon as we get our batteries recharged up for that last week. And we are getting ready in every way you can get ready, mentally, doing push-ups, doing sit-ups, whatever, for this B-25 inaugural flight. As a quick side note, we've finally gotten to the point where we've had enough spare time to make a gauge and test some of the four-bladed props. These are the ones we had left over from the Spitfire projects. Of course, they were scaled for the Spitfire. Now, on this plane, on the first day out, I realized, whoa, these were really close. But I had forgotten. I had already spent a lot of hours de-pitching and pitching these when we were flying Spitfires. Joe and I were both flying Spitfires, and especially with the Jet 60. So we're looking forward to if we can get out one day this week, or when and if Richard ever gets up here. This will be one of the choices that we can put on a plane and get some feedback from him. And I'm sure his flying skill, and he'll know right away if they're in pitch or out of pitch. But it was amazing how nice this worked right out of the box. I was very impressed with that. But we got all the props pitched, and again, we're waiting for a day. Just not had a good luck with the weather this week. Now this is a really special picture, came in today's mail. This is from Gary Rushke. I hope I'm saying that right. Gary and Dorothy run GD Hobbies, and they have been playing windy videos in their store. I guess that they've only lost about 30% of their customers since they started doing that too. But he's anticipating building a B-25 from Dave Downey's plans, and he has the spare wing to the B-25, so Look at this cool little plane. Now look at the plane real close. It looks like a kart. Well, look at it even closer. Look at it. It's got little built-up flaps. It's a little half-A Cardinal. How cool. Now, my thought would be, I would hope that he'd draw up a quick set of plans to this. This would be an ideal subject for Stunt News, and I'll send these pictures in. Maybe with the idea Tom can generate some interest. I know they flew half-A at this year's Nats. We fly half-A at some of our local contests, but always somebody interested in that. What a great little plane. I'd love to see some more pictures. I'm not gonna send these all in. I'm gonna send one in my shop here. This is the smallest Cardinal I've ever seen. I'll bet it flies good too. Now because he's building a B-25, I just thought this would be an appropriate way to close out the scene. Oh yeah. Half-A Cardinal. Now what would be cool? Think about this for a second. Really be creative. Get a half-A B-25. Now a half-A B-25 would probably be, let's see how big it would be. Twice as big as this anyway. Two of these little Hot Rod 049s they make. The weight is 12 ounces. Span is 36. Says it flies great. I'll bet it does. You can put that in a box and send it to me for Christmas if you want to send me a nice Christmas present. Anyway, to Jerry and Dorothy, I hope the people that have been forced to watch windy videos in your store are not getting up in arms. Anyway, thank you very much for the picture. I hope you'll consider publishing this in Stunt News. Having a little bit of a surreal experience at it. We all know about the bird that came and sat on Tyser's head, but look at this guy up in the tree here. Now check him out. He just came down. It's a wild bird. It's a baby wild bird. He just came down and he was sitting on a table while we were in our chickies over there. And we were sitting out here. And this little guy just came and sat by us. I think this is the same bird that sat on Ken Tyser's head. He's a little wild bird. Fly up. He just flew off the top of the house. We have competition here. You have so much competition. That's a true story though, that little bird. Now that bird really, that may be the same bird, I don't know. He's up on a roof of the neighbor's house now. We're gonna see if he hangs out. See, we leave these, just throw little potato chips down there. And sooner or later well, we'll see. He's been hanging around here. Chickie, you need a friend. You need a girl. I hope, with my luck, this will be another boy. Chickie, you need a girlfriend. That's all there is to it. Les is getting downright sick of hearing two things. Hearing about these bird stories. That's a true story yesterday. That really happened. All right, he's making me up. You can see what happens. We've been pitching props. We just got back from a day at the field. All of these props that have been cut out for PAs, we need to make bushings for. We're getting all our other props, and we do have a lot of props. So Les has taken it upon himself to, we have some other maintenance.
Wait a minute, my arm is broken.
We don't want to tell you the other funny thing that happened. Les is getting ready to launch the plane this morning, and he notices the cockpit disappeared. Well, the cockpit got loose. You know, we have a take-apart cockpit in here, and obviously the
Pilot fell right out.
The screw came out. Well, we will never put that on video. Forget it. But anyway, that's our project of the day, is put the pilot back in Miss Ashley. You going to run that 40 today or not? Oh, you don't have it here. You got to get it.
I don't have it here. I got to bring it.
Okay, next time. Well, then, if you don't have the 40, we'll run the B-25. We could do that. Maybe that'll be a lot of fun. I'm sure you're going to enjoy that. We've been pitching up and down, and see, this is a dedicated Jet 65 gauge, and you can see how many times I've changed the pitch 1 inch from the station. Well, now I know I've gone too far. So what I'm basically going to do now is just peel off this last piece of wood, which will put us back to the original station. And we know where the point is. That windy logic kicks in, where we've gone too far and where it's just going to be right. Then once we know we have this right, this will be for the 13. I'm going to do the same thing for the 12s. We really only have 2 sizes of props. and I have 1 gauge for the 4 blades.
Be
And the
interesting,
4 blade worked real well. I was very impressed with that.
be interesting to see what props we wind up using on the 40s.
Yeah, well, we're not going to know until you bring the motor over here. See, he's trying to avoid bringing that motor here because he knows I'm dying to hear it run. Now I got a whole bunch of props. I got a whole bag of them. You don't have to worry about props. Anyway, if we get our new prop mounting system done today, which Les is graciously making for us here. Looks like we have a box of pizza, but it's really prop tuning stuff. Anyway, this is the gauge. This saves you so many hours of work. Just pitch them right up. Once you have that pitch that you know you want for the plane, then you can replicate it over and over again. As I notice, see, I'm staying by the tree here. I notice my friend is back. He's back. We have been having little adventures with this guy. I'm not sure if he's like some kind of tame bird or something, but he's at this feeder every day. And yesterday I just opened the window and reached out and grabbed him. And he didn't mind it. He sat in my hand for 15 minutes. I can't believe it. Anyway, we got 2 props to pitch. We're not going to do this on tape anymore. Once those are done, we're pretty much then going to try to get the cockpit back in Miss Ashley. Now, one of the things we're going to do is, there's a little fuel filter from Richard Oliver. We're going to try this instead of the one we have in there. Just, if nothing else, this feels lighter. It feels real nice. Anyway, from Richard Oliver, it comes apart. You can pull it apart and clean it, which is a nice feature. And we'll have that in the plane once we pull it apart and see if we can rescue the pilot from falling into the wingtip. That fits in there. It's much smaller than the one we were using. Nice fit. Oh, that looks like it's going to work well. And you can pull it apart and clean it. That's a nice thing too. Now here's a man truly enjoying his work here. Oh, I can't wait to see what this is going to look like. We finally got the pilot back in position. The screws had come loose. An important thing, if you take apart cockpits, tighten the screws once in a while. Anyway, he's all back, ready to go. I'm not sure if Les fell into the drill press back there or what. How you doing, Les?
Compared to what?
I don't know. I'm afraid to ask.
We're doing fine.
He's putting bushings in all the props. Now see, a lot of these he made a little jig up. Where's your little jig that you made to cut the bushings?
Oh, that's not, that's Joe, this is a hole.
Because the lathe we have is really substandard. So he made a hole. Brass tubing goes in. You can cut it off with the exact dimension. He's got that all figured out. And like everything Les does, labor intensive. Oh, he's got to put it in there to dress it off.
Oh yeah.
I'm so impressed. I got to double his pay. Anyway, by the end of the day, we're going to have all our props organized. The ones that had been opened up, bushed, I can't wait. And Miss Ashley is ready for another prop testing day. 3 blades and 4 blades coming our way. Look at how many cups of coffee he drank today. How many cups of coffee did you drink today?
2.
Anyway, he's got almost all of our props bushed. And we're moving right along here. But he found a good little tip. So when you want to ream out a prop, so it gets a nice tight fit on the bushing, show him the trick.
And you really have to lean on the reamer.
And you really have to lean. Okay.
Take a piece of motor mount stock. These were the test holes I drilled before for
so you could cut
the
tubing
bushings,
off.
right?
Okay.
Put it in the vise, put the prop against it, and now you can get a lot of force.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you can do that like a...
Now let's see what kind of a fit we got.
Yeah, this is the part. Dum 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 dum. Anyway, you may think this is boring stuff, but a lot of these props had been opened up for PA shafts, like this one right here. And there's no way, a couple more. So Les has gone into production making these little bushings.
You can see what we got here.
Now they all have a nice tight fit, and he's been using his Rojet to, I think he's been dunking a Rojet in the coffee here. Let's see what you got here. You got the bushing? Oh, here's the little bag with the bushings. He's been making these up. They're for sale on the internet now. Just see less Demet. Less bushing Demet.
You're right.
He's never going to want to see another bushing.
You got that right.
I think he's doing this because he doesn't want to break his 40 in today. He knows I'll take it out and fly it on him when he's not here.
40 gets broken in tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow. Nah, the deal is he said he's going to be here with the crack of dawn. We'll see. I'll know by the look in your eyes over breakfast if you're really serious about this hobby or not. It's easy to be a tough guy this time of day. It's when that alarm rings at 5 in the morning that we know who's really into stunt and who isn't.
Listen, who do you know who's crazy enough to go all the way to Muncie without an airplane?
Oh man, just keep reaming. Keep reaming, purloined parts. He likes Ron Merrill's wife's sign. Purloined bushings. Those bushings are starting to wind up in Chicky's cage, you know. All right, you got one that fits at last?
Not quite. We're working on it.
All right.
We're working on it. Goes in the front. Needs a little more work.
Early in the morning, even before feeding Chicky, Les has his 40. This is the Roadjet 40. Boy, this motor is small. Unbelievable.
Isn't that tiny?
Whoa.
25 case, they say.
Wow. And we're going to set it up. What are you going to do? Put the, well, you got some gasket material for us to test here. Carapec. Where'd you buy this? In a car parts store?
Yeah, $2.95 for that
Yeah,
sheet.
we can never find that perfect stuff anymore, so we'll see if this is a good replacement. He's got the head. Are you going to use a remote needle or a regular needle on this?
Use the remote. It's because the spray bar is set up. You see,
Oh,
they already
okay.
got the,
He's got the
the
piece in it.
256
Okay.
cap screw in.
And then the deal is we want to, of course it's raining out there today, we're going to hopefully get to break this in today. Hey, we did all the props and put bush, I didn't, Les really did. But Les came up with this idea to confine the props, and we're going to work on this later today. We want to get the 40 run before it really starts raining. The idea is we can put as many props as we want here and have these nice spin-on knobs that'll hold them nice. And maybe we'll get one, actually if you leave this in one piece, you could make one rack for all the props, Les. Or you could put 3 blades, 2 blades, whatever, you know, all in the...
Well, you know, it's really simple because all we really need is more quarter 20 rod.
Yeah, that's all Home Depot. You got that at Home Depot, right?
Sears, actually.
Okay, Sears, so it's available. It's not high-tech or anything. It's not titanium rod from some unobtainable place.
Right. You got it.
All right, and you're closing in on having this ready.
Yep.
Okay, he's making up a gasket. You're going to use the remote needle, and we're going to hopefully get this broken in before Noah's Ark gets here. He's got a Billy Werwich.
How close is Noah's Ark?
You got a Billy Werwich pipe here. Okay. Okay, because this is soft material, Les has a sharpened up piece of tubing to cut the holes for the gasket. And you basically can put the bolts in and just use the outlet of the motor, or the header is even better. And use a brand new blade to get a nice... Boy, is it a pain making these gaskets, huh? Oy. That's why I'm glad Les is doing it. We have to find somebody qualified to make gaskets. Do you know anybody qualified? Anybody with a razor sharp beak maybe that could just make gaskets for us?
Chisel one out.
They're purloined parts here.
Unfortunately, see, the only...
You got to figure out how... Boy, yesterday your hand was sore from reaming prop. You really got a rough...
Yeah, this is...
I think maybe you want to quit the job here and maybe get a job in the real world where it pays better.
No, I retired from that, remember? What are you kidding me?
Now, luckily, when you buy a 65, you get the gaskets, but...
You have to ask for them. I didn't get gaskets.
You have to ask, you have to beg on your knees. Anyway, we really want to find out because this perfect material that we used to be able to buy in hobby shops seems to have dried up, and we don't want to be single-sourced on anything.
Now, I know that they make this in about 4 different varieties.
Okay. What we really want is the high-temp stuff. You know, you should have gotten some of that high-temperature gasket maker, too, just as a...
You mean the
red stuff?
goop?
Yeah, just for fun.
Okay,
we've shown this already, but this is the torque wrench that Les has from, well, he got it from Randy. You got that from Randy, right?
Yeah, I got it from Randy, but if I'm not mistaken, it's in the latest... There's one just like it, if it's not the same one, in the latest Model Aviation or Flying Models, one of the 2.
Okay.
So it just goes to show you. Okay,
Okay,
there's
so
6.
he's setting this up so when he torques on the header, he doesn't strip the bolt.
Not that 14 to 16 inch-pounds. We're going to start off at about...
I don't know, Les, because I've never stripped a bolt in my life. I wish I had $1 for every bolt I stripped. Anyway,
Right,
heavy
we're gonna
hands.
Start off at 10
He's got heavy hands.
and see what happens.
Actually, that'd be a good thing to ask Richard. And Dub, what his recommendation
I'll
is.
tell you, I tried taking one of the back plate bolts off to put the remote needle on the engine.
Yeah,
I couldn't, with a
they're on pretty solid,
like
huh?
this, I
Yeah.
couldn't break it loose.
Okay. Well, Dub's a tough guy, or Richard, whoever put that engine together.
One of the two.
Speaking of tough guys, hey, go work on that engine. His hand set the bolts in and then used the torque wrench to snug them up. And it gives you a spec chart right on the wrench, the box itself, what the torque setting for this size bolt should be.
Well, we're going to work up incrementally. In a conversation that I had with Randy, he said that you can, on a longer bolt, like his head bolts, he torques on more heavily than he does the back cover bolts, because it's a shorter bolt. You don't
Yeah,
have
you're
as much
spreading the
thread in
load.
the aluminum.
Yeah,
So you
spreading the
can't-
load.
All right, so now
All the ones for the metric, they give you the
Here we
metric
go.
and the ones that we use.
Yep. Okay, here we go. This is at 10 inch pounds. Didn't get a snap yet.
Well, you want to do them equally too. You don't
Yep.
want to just go to 10 on one and the other one's loose.
Right.
That's important.
Come on, you.
This is what most people do to strip the header bolts. Like we won't mention any names, but our good friend up in the Palisade Park tightens one bolt, you know, with a tire iron, and then tightens the other one. Tighten them both so he's going back and forth, little by little, back and forth, little by little is a better way.
Now, I got to tell you something. That's 10 inch pounds, and already it feels like I'm putting a lot of torque on that.
You know why? You're squeezing a gasket.
There we go.
Oh, there you go. You got the snap. See what the wrench does? It releases like a clutch, so you can't over tighten the bolts. And if you have heavy hands, and I could mention a few people I know should be.
All right, now I'm going to go.
Richard should be buying
I'm
one
going
of
to
them.
go up to 12.
Mr. Jacoboni. Okay.
Yeah, because it's 14 to 16. Let's go up to 12. We'll see what we get.
Okay. Now you're just resetting the wrench.
Exactly.
Okay.
For
Go up in little amounts, not all at once.
okay, now we're at 12. We lock it up.
Okay.
There's 12. Well, we're
Up in our little test stand here and figure out how you want to mount it up. Get a 10-inch prop and I think we'll be ready to go. Really wants to go flying because we're in the middle of having a storm here, so he decides, what the heck, let's go and break the engine in. Now what we're doing is, one of the things I always like to do is run a 60 pipe on a 40. I never run a 40 pipe on a 40, always run a 60 pipe. You'll always be happier.
all right.
Run it. Les is using we're going to set this up for a rear needle valve. We've been real careful about letting it cool down between runs, which it's a nice cool day. In fact, it's too cool. Okay, whenever you want to run this again, Les, we're ready. Boy, it's got a nice feel. I'm real excited about this 40. And like I said, anybody who doesn't know, Les is gonna be building a 40 plane, a 60 plane. I'm gonna try to build a 40 and a 60 plane.
Needle valve assembly, so
Yeah, okay. You did change it?
get a new needle setting, but
Okay. Now we know the header gasket is working perfectly. There's not a drop. Front end of the motor is dry as a bone. And the glow plug, the washer under there is leaking a little bit. We're gonna put a new washer under the glow plug. Other than that, this guy's ready to go. Ready to put it in a plane. One of the things we never suffer from here in break-in land, look at the oil coming out of this. This is Karen's chair, which we're going to sit. Look at the table. You never have to worry. This isn't rain, this is oil. Anyway, obviously we're going to have to hose this down before the wife gets home. Les went out into the street with the motor. Anyway, we got a good amount of break-in time. It's ready to put in a plane. And these chairs will never rust. To say our test model has served us well since John Gajewski donated this to our cause, and I don't want to not give him the credit he's due, but we're going to pull all the hardware off the front and see if we can somehow. We were using this to test the Brodak 40. I think everybody in the club has flown 10 flights on this. The Brodak 40 is, for all the tests that I can see, that's an in-the-bank motor, and we're just waiting for the second production run. The first one is already sold out, so we're going to try to use it now to test this Rojet 40. And having those clamps, see, we actually have, the tank is on a bracket, and having clamp mounts, that's about as easy as I know how to get it, that you can take it on and off. Possibly the worst idea I ever had in the world of stunt was to try to make soft mounts years ago. You can see how many I had at one time. I had about 200. Every plane that ever had soft mounts has been deep sixed and has hard mounts now. We're trying to, what we're using a soft mount for is so we can mount the pipe on this. Because we have clamp mounts, everything here looks like it's going to go, well, we'll make a longer bracket. How hard is that going to be? Les needs it. We want Richard to fly this while he's up here.
I just want that blind nut to get a bite.
Yeah, let it get a bite. Anyway, the clamp mounts, let it go right in. We got to figure out if we're probably going to use the jet bubble-free tank on this, unless we can get a. He's going to try to get a profile tank. I don't know if we're going to get one. Hobby shops don't have any of that stuff in stock, do they?
Generally, they don't. You know who did though was John Misk.
Yeah, no, John's not around anymore. The guy in Richfield Park will have it. He bought all of John's stuff.
All right,
look at that, pretty cool, huh, Dammit?
Yeah, but
Dammit's impressed.
I think we got a little. It'll work. You know, no two ways about it.
But we're not going to appearance judging here. You don't have to worry.
No, I don't want to burn.
Now, why don't we take the stinger before you do this and point the stinger that way? Or down. Down would be better. So that the guy launching a plane doesn't get a bath.
Gotta cut that.
All right, cut that and put a new zip tie on. Boy, John Gajewski's probably going, you guys butchered up my plane, huh? Actually, we have gotten some good use out of this. We have gotten excellent use out of this plane, there's no doubt about it. As soon as Les figures out all the little details, we'll be rocking and rolling, baby, ready to test. Best tip of all, you do these zip ties when you clip them. When they're on an exposed thing like these, it's like a razor blade when you go to wipe the plane off. Man, I've cut myself so many times. Come on, that doesn't look so ugly. What are you talking about?
You don't think that looks ugly? That is,
come on.
That'd be ugly.
One last thing Les is going to do is try to get us a profile type tank. I tried putting the jet tank in there. We're going to try to use the jet bubble tank, bubble jet. But I made a little mount that I thought would kind of hold that in place, and I could move the screw holes up and down if I want to shim it, just to get us a day of test flying. Again, we just want to get some time on the motor and have another test plane, have something to test, especially as the, you know, we're rich. Les is actually putting the final touches on the plans right now for what will be his 40 size plane. Actually, this went on pretty good, except we're going to need the jet fueler, and we have a way we can just open up those holes if we need to shim one. I'm sure we're going to have to. But again, this is not to go be competitive. This is just so we can have a little test bed to run our motor on, and we can get some more flights on the jet bubble tank Why can I never figure out if it's the bubble free or the jet bubble or the bubbles the stripper? I'm not sure what. We're gonna have to rename this tank. Anyway, we will try to get out to the field tomorrow, the next day. Right now we're still in the middle of a storm system, so this was a pretty good day getting this all set up, broken in, and ready to go. Now today I had to make a little bit of a jig here, because see what happens with the B-25, it sits with the nose down ever so slightly. As per the scale plane, it sits in negative attack. So while I'm running the engines, what happens then, the fuel feed comes out of the back of the tank too soon with this up, with the nose up a bit. So what, I'll get a little bit easier adjustment on the motors. Now we're planning in the next couple of days to spend maybe the better part of an afternoon running the motors. And I wanted to make some kind of a stooge attachment in the back, or some way of confining the plane up in the front. Maybe I'll just leave those the things that hold the wheels there as one of the things, just to keep it from sliding around on the table while I'm working on it. I just made this up with some scrap balsa, and that's about all I'm going to get, is one step today of just trying to get this, or as many steps I get a couple of minutes more later, try to get this confined so I can, and of course I'll do it outside, is be able to run the engines on the test bench. Coming up on test day. Seems to hold it up just a little bit like a tail dragger would be, without rubbing the rudders on the ground. I'm still gonna, when I actually do get to run it, I'm gonna put the stooge in place. I put some just ordinary sheetrock screws down through these supports. I just didn't want to take any chance that while I'm working on this, and I plan to possibly tomorrow or the next time, maybe I can get less over here, to get this so while it's up on a table I can be adjusting things and running them and whatever, trying to sync the carbs a little better, because the test day is coming up soon, and I don't want to be, if possible, I don't want to be ill prepared or just have one little thing that's going to ruin the whole first day, and that always is a good possibility. Now before we go out, anytime we switch the motor in our test ship, the thing that we try to do is compare apples to apples. Now, when we originally got the plane and we were originally using other motors, we had found from going back and forth and having several people fly the plane, a place that we think is the optimum CG for this plane. And I know where that is. Now, what's happening, I reference all my CG locations from the hinge line forward, assuming that it's a straight hinge line. So I know from the hinge line forward I'm at an exact point, then I can balance the model. Now, what has just happened in the last couple of days since we've been changing motors, when we put the Brodak 40 in here, Brodak 40 was a little bit lighter than most motors, so the CG moved back just a little bit, about 1/8 of an inch. Well, with this, and we had to compensate for it with weights on the motor, or heavier mufflers, or no muffler, or the tongue muffler, whatever. But we know that there's a range here that we want to be in. Now, what we've done with the test model now is really a radical change. This motor is a little bit heavier. It's about 1.5 ounces heavier, in fact, with all the hardware. And it also has this weight up here that we have to deal with. Now we're not looking to make a real pretty plane out of this. I don't want anybody to think, oh yeah, this is the way, if I design a plane from scratch, this is how it would be. But what we're trying to do is maximize the use of the equipment that we already have, and we're trying to learn something. Here's exactly what we're trying to learn from this. Now, we know with the CG over here, we're going to have to put some lead on the tail to go get that CG back. Or else what happens if the plane is real nose heavy, or if the vertical CG is out by a lot, but you're not getting a fair test of apples to apples. In other words, it wouldn't make, if you had a Nobler and you put a Fox 35 in it, and it flew relatively well, so now you go get a motor that's 3 or 4 ounces heavier and put it in there, it's not a real good test because the plane is real nose heavy. It's not going to perform the way it really should. So what I'm trying to do is anytime I do a switch, or in this case a major switch, I want to check for two things. I want to get the CG back where it should be, and in this case I'm going to have to add a little piece of lead to the tail to get it back to where it should be. And I'm also going to have to check the vertical CG. And in this case I can pick the plane up with my two fingers. This is not a gnat's plane where we're trying to really get it on the razor edge, but a rough thing, if I pick it up here and here with the outer wing down, I can get an idea as to which side of the plane is falling down. In this case, this was heavier. So what I'm going to do is I have two choices here. I can just take to the field with me a set of heavier wheels, or if I don't want to change the wheels, I can put some solder down here. Billy Suarez wrapped solder on his landing gear to get the vertical CG right. But the point is I want to get it back to where it was so that the same people basically are going to be flying a plane, and maybe we'll even get Richard to fly the plane. But we don't have a plane that is way out of trim so that the motor run becomes an invalid thing. And what we've been trying to evaluate, because we have this plane that has a small stiletto wing in it, it's about a 600-inch wing, and it weighs about 50 ounces. So what we're trying to determine, as Les does his final homework here, and he's doing the plans, Dave Downey has been real helpful with us with his CAD cam, but what we're trying to come up with is, what is the optimum size for a Rojet 40 ship? How many, and in other words, here's the dilemma. You could just do it by square inches, and the reason that doesn't work exactly the way we want is, say for instance you had a 700-inch real thin wing, and you had a 600-inch modern wing with a 25% airfoil, which pretty much all modern planes have. Well, it's not the same. So what we're really looking to determine here is not only the square inches of our new design, and we're putting a lot of thought and getting a lot of input from a lot of people, it's not only the square inches, but what's the cubic displacement. And we're going to be going into this further and further. I'm getting some formulas from Dave Downey that he's going to try to help me explain on video. But the real test here is, as an example, if we just stab at it and say, okay, we would use a stiletto. I just, for some reason, keep coming back to the stiletto as our median average. We know this is a proven design. Okay, we know also that, and I'm just gonna stab at this, that's somewhere around 650 inches, and this would be a typical full performance, high performance, not a profile. This would be a full fuselage ship. This is roughly what they would be looking at. Now, of course, a lot of 40 ships are down around 600 inches, or maybe even smaller, like the Cardinal. The little Cardinal is, but that's really designed to be a 35-40 ship. This is designed to be a 40 and maybe a 46 ship, a little bigger than that. And I think these modern motors, all of them, have just a little more power. So we're going to shoot somewhere around 650. Now, the way we arrived at this is we had sent the Miss Ashley plans down to Dave Downey with the exact airfoils. He entered them into his CAD cam, and he shrunk the wing down until it came just about, I think it was 648, I'm not sure. But now we have an exact shrink down of the Miss Ashley wing. Now the reason we're trying to stay with things that we have a good, we know are proven, and we know how they perform and how they act. So we have this original shrink down of the wing now, and the next step, and Les is going to be the one to decide it, the next step is we have a choice of making a foam wing, a rib wing, or a geo wing, and we haven't decided that. Les and I are kind of partnering up on this because he's going to be the one that leads the way with the 40 size ship. I'm going to try to build a 65 size ship, but pretty much the same ship. So we're going to try to have two, I call it the Gemini project, but two very similar ships, but we want to use all the proven components in a smaller size. And I don't think anybody has ever done this. But the main thing I'm trying to key in on is that what I want to have is a relationship between the Rojet 40, and that'll be our engine of choice for this price, to Les's choice. In fact, he's already bought the motor, and the stiletto size and the Miss Ashley wing. Miss Ashley being just a little bit thicker of a wing. So by combining these three components, I think we're going to have a real, something that would be really well thought out, and with Dave Downey's help, several other people that have offered help and advice that are very knowledgeable about 40 size planes. What I'm shooting for is a best of all worlds plane, and I think somewhere down the road, the first part of this is going to be to test a little Rojet and get a feel for how it performs in a 600-inch plane. I think it's going to overpower it to some degree. So then we'll know, at that point in time, we'll know, well, we definitely are not going 600. Then we'll try to find a plane that's about a 650-inch plane. And see, at some point in time, we'll have that happy marriage where it's not overpowered and it's not underpowered, and we have that balance that we're always looking for. But anyway, it's going to take a lot of time. It's something that we're putting a lot of time and energy into off camera. But I hope ultimately we'll have a set of plans, and we'll be adding at least the bones of a new design to the world of stunt. Now, when I built the original 92 Cardinal and Steve Busso drew the plans, he did an excellent job, and everything that he did on these plans was extremely, extremely accurate. So what I'm going to try to do today, and I've got a little bit of time, is just get a little bit ahead on our project that's coming up. I want to make out the bones of, and I can use his drawing right here to get the curve off the top. See, what I want to get is that curve. What I want to try to do is get the part that's going to be the engine crutch for the new plane. I want to have the choice of making a carbon fiber one, but the first thing I need to do is make a plug up, and I need to make the plug pretty accurate right off his plans, put a finish on it, and make a rubber mold before I can mold up a crutch. But the whole idea here by using the plans is I get that nice curve in there, as opposed to some other ways that, and there are several other ways to do it. But I know this way, see, when he drew the plans, he made them for a 51, he made it for a VF, and we had built several with pipes. I think we made more with pipes back then than with 60s. But he did do this real accurate layout of the fuselage crutch, and so I'm going to be using that as the bones for laying out what's going to be a part for next year's plane, the carbon fiber fuselage crutch. So step one is to just get this shape copied onto a piece of 64th plywood. Now, by having the actual motor here, the 61, but the 65 is basically the same size, we can get all our dimensions for laying out any shape that we really need. But the shape we need to start with, we need the top view of this, and I also need to make sure I have the motor mounts. What I'll do is I'll make them a little closer than they need to be. And this way, I might be able to use the same crutch for other engines where the spacing is a little closer. Then when I go to use this engine, I can just grind enough that I can just lay that right in there and get a relatively nice tight fit. But having all this hardware here to start with just makes the difference, and having accurate plans, this makes the whole job very, very easy. I'm taking a little coffee break as I'm working on this crutch. Look at these guys. There's one of these guys, and I don't know who. They sit on my window. They sit on the screen all day while I'm having coffee. And they just never get tired of eating. You could fill this feeder up. These birds could eat 100 pounds of seed in one day. They fight, they argue, they play this male dominance thing. A lot of ways you can get an accurate tracing of this. The first one is, of course, you can take tracing paper or even office paper and just trace over the shape with the curve, and that's one way to do it. But an even more accurate way is to fold the paper, put the fold on the center line, then trace one side and cut it, and that means you would then have a mirror image when you unfold it, and a center line. The top view, I want to make sure I have the taper going into an 1 3/4 spinner, and that looks like I've got it pretty close. In fact, I can move the motor up, put the motor right in the position it's going to be in. I've got just enough clearance. I don't want to grind on the motor. You can see how close I've got that. I've got enough room to get my carbon tank, which is 2 1/8. Just get a nice tight fit on that and have a little bit of room in the back to kick the back end out. So this basically is going to be the template that I'm going to use now, and I'm going to cut this out of 64th plywood. What I have is I did this using the method of having a fold, so I know each curve is an exact match to the other side. This folded up pattern, and again, the reason for doing it this way was to get it symmetrical, that they're both the same. I traced that on the center line on a piece of 64th plywood, and now this is just going to be a pattern. I'm just going to use this as a pattern to build a crutch off. And I can cut this with ordinary scissors. Next thing I need to do is just true these edges up and lay out the wood that I want to use, because this is going to be a plug now. You certainly don't need motor mounts all the way back. They can have a taper in them. Then we're going to build right on this piece what'll be the plug for the fuselage crutch. Next step I need to know is this is the widest of the motors that we're going to use. And what I did, working from the center line out, just roughly to get this, I need it to be a little bit thinner. So all I need to do is take the red tape off, which is 1/8, and put in 16th tape. I want to make it a little bit tighter than it has to be, because I really want to get a nice tight fit when that's sitting in there. So just by varying the thicknesses of tape, an easier way to do this would be, is just when you want to make an adjustment, or you want to fine tune it to some degree, just take off one side. If you have 1/8, 16th, various thicknesses of tape, it's just going to allow me to get the two motor mounts in parallel when I actually go down to do this. Now the nice thing is, once this crutch plug is made up, anybody that ever wants one, we can make one, and it'll be an exact copy of the one we have. So if this for some reason becomes a popular design in the future, which we hope it will, and when we did the original, hey, 1992, 10-year anniversary, when we did the original Cardinal, we really didn't know just how, because we didn't know if it was going to be well received, or a lot of people were going to want it or not want it or whatever. Well, it's turned out to be a real popular kit. I think a lot of people have enjoyed owning one, having one. But this will allow us to just get the motor mounts, and we're going to make, because this is a plug, it's not real motor mounts, we can make them out of rock hard balsa. I have some real hard 1/2-inch balsa I can use. Now it'll be a 16th, will give me the dimension I need, and then I can get the motor mounts glued right in. First I need to do the relieving here, but this gives me two parallel lines to work off. What I ultimately wind up with is the lines being parallel and being a tight fit when I just check to see if the motor, how the motor is going to fit in there. Also that I have, and I'm probably going to add a little bit to this because I don't want to have a real tight tank fit. I want to have a little bit of slop around the tank fit, and then obviously try to use a carbon fiber tank in this to keep the weight down too. Step on this is to figure out the motor mount, the thickness. And again, the way I did that is by laying the crutch out so that I have pretty much an 1/8 by 1/2 wall to glue to. And when this is done, this will need secondary bonding resin to do the glue job. Here's where the motor would sit. I need to position the motor. Okay, and then I need to remove, and I'll do that with a brand new blade and a saw, so that I have the top view of the motor mount, and then it'll be ready to install onto the plug. Okay, now I have one mount just roughly laid out. And what I need to do is replicate another part of this, and I'm cutting this out of 1/2-inch square rock hard balsa. so that I have one for this side and I have an exact match pair. Doing is just carefully tracing. Again, I want this to be as accurate as possible. And I should have, after I get done cutting this out and sanding it, get a nice smooth finish on it, I should have 2 exact matches, and then I can put one on top of the other and see, get them both to be exactly a match pair.
Comparing them as I go.
One of the real time savers of doing this kind of a job is you want to get mirror images of these parts, and that I've done with the belt sander. I also want to put a finish on this, because once I glue this in place, I can finish out here easily, but this will have all little webbing. So to get a nice finish inside here, pretty much the way I've done it always in the past, is just get a nice coat of thin CA on here. In fact, I could do the whole motor mount here. This will just let it be that I'll need less primer or finish on it to get a nice finish. As soon as that kicks, and it only takes a second or two, I can do this 2 or 3 times until I have a relatively nice smooth finish. It'll also harden up the wood, let me get nicer edges on it. But once the webbing is in place, it'll be difficult to get down in there. It'll be impossible, in fact. It's good to put a pre-finish and sand and get as much of the finishing done while it's in parts, because it is difficult, again, I've said that already, but it's difficult to get down in there and get a nice smooth release finish, and then in the mold itself. In other words, once we're sanding this part, we're sanding every part that'll ever be made from this mold, all in one shot. Once that dry, and that just kicked normally, give that a few minutes. I'll sand this down, give it 3 or 4 coats. I want to have a little bit of a finish on that, and then I'm going to attach the mounts to that. Anything you can pre-finish, always better than doing it almost the same as building a full-size plane. We have the finish on the side that we're not going to be able to get to real easily on the mounts. Now usually some 220 paper on a little block. It only takes a minute or 2 to get the finish on here, but once those mounts are in place, boy, it'll be a little bit more difficult. Joining this with CA on a flat piece of glass. As soon as one side kicks off, I'll put the other side on. But I want to maintain this flat side. I have this pre-finished, this side pre-finished, so I should, in essence, save a little bit of time anyway. And now we're ready to put the cross pieces in. Again, I'll try to pre-finish them before I put them in. In fact, I don't have this set just right. I need to line up the nose and just check to see that we're not off, or I haven't missed something. And this should be a good way to spread the load without having a stress riser. You wouldn't want to have this just end. Going any further, I want to make a base plate for this. I need to have half an inch or so of clearance on all sides. This is just a piece of scrap wood that we've already used for a base plate. And we don't need to make this. This part does not have to be finished or fancy. And all that's going to be now, as soon as I cut this out, I'm going to mount this permanently there. This will give me and hold a 90-degree setting for the whole rest of the job. Of course, I want to sand this relatively smooth because the rubber from the rubber mold is going to wind up being on here. I want to get rid of some of the grain just to make a little bit neater mold. And what we try to do each year is improve the molding, the whole process, just a little bit. So we're not really doing exactly the same thing. We're trying to make little upgrades to it. And I think this will be, the way I have in my mind, I think this will be a little upgrade over the last, we've done these for 3 or 4 years already. This will be the best one still. And of course I'll try to pre-finish this edge. It'll just be easier than once I get it glued in place. Any edge you can pre-finish, boy, it's like a take-apart plane. It just makes it so much quicker. It's actually a big saving. Now I'm going to lay out the webbing just by taking a piece of 1/2 inch square onto plywood. Then I'm going to pre-finish the plywood before I even cut it. Again, trying to get as much of the finish done. The whole idea here is to get the finishing done before I ever have to, and 2 or 3 coats of thick or thin CA. And we'll have a little finish on it, and then I'll just start cutting in the parts that I'm going to need. A little finish on both sides of this just makes it a lot easier than if I had it before I cut the parts. Then it's hard to hold them. While they're in one big sheet, it's easy to get a pre-finish on it. This is designed as this is where our wing is going to start, and I want this to go beyond the former that would normally be here. I don't want to have the wing end and just have a stress riser because, again, this is going to be, in theory anyway, a take-apart plane. Even if it wasn't, I'd want to have that little piece go beyond the last former, or what we typically call F2. So I left a little piece, and I can just grind away the wing if I need to for that part. Now I want to lay in the little formers at this point. Again, it's 16th plywood. I'll use a triangle so I make sure I get every one at exactly 90 degrees, and these are all at least semi pre-finished. Now I'm eyeballing up to make sure I have everything at 90 degrees. And the rest will be just filling in the formers. I just got to fill the formers in one by one, make sure they're all 90 degrees and straight. Got all the cross pieces in. Now I just need to put the triangulation in there. Now with all the pieces in, the next part of this is the part that gets really labor intensive, is I want to get a finish on everything. I want to put several coats of thick and thin CA on this, sand each one, get rid of as much of the grain and leave a relatively nice surface on this. And this is why I pre-finished a lot of these edges and things, because right now it's difficult to do that. But this will help me get a nice flat surface here, even though this is not real critical. It'll just look nicer when the part is done. Again, it's always handy to have these little, and this is the part any mold maker has all kinds of little tricks for doing this. I don't have that many, but I'd like to get as smooth a surface on this as I possibly can. At least 2 or 3 coats of CA so I can get rid of a lot of the grain, radius all the edges off, so that the mold and all the parts, see what happens is I'm really sanding every part that'll ever come out of this mold. So I can really I'll probably spend the rest of the day here just getting this as nice as possible. so that anybody that's going to use one of these in the future, and of course we'll have, hopefully have these for sale, for anybody that's looking to replicate our little construction projects here. But this part of it, this part just takes time. Decided to do because the finish on this was reasonably good from the CA. Rather than paint it, if I put primer on it or some finish, what's going to happen is the part will in essence get thicker, and I want to keep it a high definition part. So what I'm going to do is I'm just using part oil high temperature wax, same one we use on the gear mold. I'm going to just try to get a good and even, maybe 2 or 3 coats of wax on everything. And all this is to do is just to leave a nice smooth surface. A little easier for the molding rubber to release from. And what I'll do, I'll spend a little bit of time getting in all the corners and edges with a Q-tip or with a little rubber tool. This will just leave a little bit nicer surface in the final part. And once this is done, and this will take a half an hour or so, I will make up a box for this, and maybe even before the night's out, get the molding rubber poured for this, which would be really nice if we could do that. And tomorrow we could lay up a crutch. Now I'm just going to keep doing this till I get as smooth a finish as I think I can tolerate. Smoother the better, that's for sure. Because before all these parts are joined, they have to be sanded with 80 grit paper anyway. But it'd be nice to start with something relatively smooth. If you can see, even before you wipe the wax off, it does leave a little bit of a polish. Not in terms like you would think a polish, like wax in your car, but it does leave a little bit of a gloss on there. If you can get in the corners too and get all the wax out of the corners before I make the box up. I don't want to have big globs in the corner. Okay, so the next thing we're going to have to do is get some balsa wood and build a box around this, maybe 1 inch high, and get ready to pour the molding rubber, and we will get this poured tonight. This went a lot quicker than I thought it would. This is a very simple part to mold for anybody who'd like to try, like Introduction to Molding 101. The worst that can happen is if you need to modify it, you will, at the end of this, we'll still have the plug. For instance, when we want to make this into a 40 size, we can just put a piece right in here, a piece of plywood or balsa wood or whatever, and make another casting from it, because we'll still have the original plug. Hopefully when we're done, we'll still have the plug. Anything really fancy for a box, and we use this overlapping joint technique so we don't even have to get neat ends on it. Actually, if you really want it to go, you could duct tape the corners, but in this case we'll just glue them. While this glue is setting up here, we've got it glued right to the table, in fact. This way you can't walk around while we're pouring the molding rubber. Get a Q-tip here. We want it sealed because I don't want the molding rubber leaking out. So I sealed all the inside joints. And what we're going to do when we're all done is just throw the box away. We're done with the box. In fact, I can put some glue on the outside here. Although they do make boxes that you can use over and over again with clamps. The idea is to do this as quickly and inexpensively as possible, and I think this is the best way. Okay, we're ready to mix molding rubber. While that's kicking off, the molding rubber that we're going to use is made by Smooth On. It's called Mold Max 30. It's 10:1, the mixing ratio. The only thing they do tell you to be real careful about, especially if this is the first time you're using it, is, and it's inexpensive enough if you buy it in a big tub. If you buy a 1 pound, the price gets kind of pricey. So my suggestion is if you're going to do a couple of molding projects, buy a 10-pound tub. Stir it up well. That's part of the thing they tell you in the directions. Oh, here it is too. Shake well and stir well. Sounds like a comedy group. This really stirred well, and that, needless to say, is not the easiest job in the world. I want to clean a spatula, because if I don't clean a spatula, what will happen is when I put the two together, the A and the B, I'll get a phony ratio. It'll be adding some rubber into the mix without catalyst. This usually gets pretty sloppy. And a lot of times you have to mix it in 2 or 3 little batches. But it's a 10-to-1 ratio. Should kind of be self-explanatory now. See, here's where we're going to get in trouble here. Rubber gloves are a good idea. Okay. Now for the first batch, the trick is to weigh this up. I know the cup weighs 15 grams. Let's see if we got 400. 430, so I'm really going to put 42 of kicker in, which means this will be 76. So what I do is I set the scale where I know it has to be. Another trick is you don't want to take you want to get the rubber away. You don't want to even get 1 extra drop of kicker in here. So when I think I'm getting close, then I'll pour it in the cap. Because you really don't want to distort that ratio any more than you have to. And then the fun begins, the mixing. And when you think it's mixed, mix it an extra 2 minutes. See, I'm not even close yet. Wendy, you should know this. There we go. Okay, we're almost up on it. A couple more drops here and we'll have it. Okay. What happens if you put too much of the catalyst in there? At the end of using up the tub of rubber, you have no more catalyst and you got to buy another thing of catalyst. Okay, now the trick is this spatula is dry. Now I'll spend a good amount of time, and this will take, look at this, right on the table. Now I'll scoop that up. See, late at night like this, it just gets like you want to get this done. Because I'll probably have to make 2 or 3 of these batches or cupfuls. Now I can tell you, if you don't mix the rubber long enough, and if it looks marbleized with little streaks of catalyst in it, if it's not an all uniform color, when it dries, there'll be soft spots in it that will not catalyze forever. And you basically then throw that mold away. The material is wasted. And you can see how long it takes to get this. It really takes time to get this stirred up. Point in time, you'll see it'll have a nice uniform color, and it usually takes about 5 minutes of stirring. You want to scoop around the edges, get all the stuff at the bottom. This is the single most important thing. And you don't want to stir it real fast. You don't want to hook an electric drill to this or anything like when you stir paint, because you don't want to induce air bubbles. We like to have, when we pour this, have no air bubbles at all. And I remember the first couple of times I used molding rubber, I was all intimidated by it, and oh gee, that's difficult to do, and I'll never figure out how to get the air bubbles out, and I'll never figure how this and that. No, it goes very quickly. By the time you make a few little practice molds, the part of it is, the biggest thing you can make yourself crazy with is if you don't stir this enough. If you skimp on the stirring. And try like heck not to make a lot of air bubbles in it. There's always going to be some, but if you can do this nice and slow and just be patient, then what's going to happen, I'm going to pour this. I'm going to let it sit for a few minutes, let the air bubbles rise, and then pour this in all the corners and the edges. Don't just dump it in. You don't want to just dump it in. You see the air bubbles coming to the top already. Again, the trick, all the air bubbles are up at the the trick is that I've found that seems to work is to try to get a slow pour into all the low corners first. We're probably going to have to make 2 or 3 batches of this, but get it in all of the little low corners and hope that the air will eventually rise to the surface as bubbles. See, if there's a bubble somewhere in the middle of the mix, it's not the end of the world, but you don't want one right on the part itself. That's where it can really be, well, just frustrating when you put a lot of time into this. But again, when you think of how many hours it takes to make the mold, you certainly can make the mold a lot quicker than making a second crutch by wood. But then you can have carbon crutches that'll never absorb oil. That's my main motive is I don't like the idea that, like Strega, oil-soaked motor mounts, you throw the plane away. Well, the carbon never absorbs the oil, so you would hope you'd have a little bit, if not a lot, longer life. The crutches usually come out a little bit lighter than their wood counterparts, and certainly a lot stronger and more durable. Now I'm going to let this little batch sit before I mix the second batch, because I want to get all the little air bubbles out of this. I want them all to rise, and you can see them rising to the surface right now. And I can take a little, well, we can do it right now. As I'm doing this, I can be poking this down in the corners, just trying to get, I know they'll always wind up in the corners, if any place. And when I put the second, you want at least a 1/2 inch of rubber covering the whole part, and you want it to be on a level table. Otherwise, when we go to make the mold, the bottom of the mold won't be level, and it will be, all the resin will be drooling off to one side. Spend the next 10 minutes or so just trying to get all the air bubbles to rise to the surface. Again, what I'm looking for is a uniform color. If I see a spot in here that looks either white or blue, I know I can stir this just a little bit more. Try to mix the catalyst in. Now, one of the things years ago George Venturini found a great way of doing this is he'd hook a vibrator sander down, just hold it to the table, and it would help air rise to the surface. But as we get ready for the second mix, we'd like to have all the air. This part will be covered now with this first batch. I'll mix the same amount so we have a good 1/2 inch of material on top. Do that off camera. Just pour the second batch and we'll be ready to go with this. This will have to sit 24 hours, so we'll probably let it sit 1 extra day before we try to lay it up. I want to do the same thing with the second batch. The second batch is lay it in nice and smooth, try to get the air to come to the top. One thing you don't want to do is just dump it in. That usually guarantees you'll trap some air in there. Looks like we've got most of the air out. We'll be ready to put this aside to dry for minimum 24 hours. If you happen to have the heat on in the house, put it where it's warm. Warm helps it cure. Anything with a catalyst, warm cures it a little bit faster. A little bit of heat on the low setting will just help kill some of the bubbles. Best thing I've found is just have it up by a heating vent. Of course, we're in the middle of the summer, so we won't have a heating opportunity. Now, I also learned another thing with my shop conditions. If I don't cover this up with something, in the morning there'll be little footprints and little beak prints in it. Won't mention any names. Anyway, I'll give this about 5 minutes. Cover it, and then set aside it to dry. This morning, we've waited a whole day for this to harden up, and it looks like it's, of course it's glued to the table, so we gotta just break it loose and try to get the plug out in one piece if we can. which a lot of times, not a lot of times, you almost always destroy the wood surrounding it. But if you take it apart carefully, just pull the wood off, you really can't conveniently save the wood. You can see even on the edge how it comes off. You just need to just keep pulling away at it. So if you're real lucky, you can peel it back real slow. If you try to rip it, the wood just breaks. Oop, as I said, the wood just breaks. And you can see it picks up every little bit of wood grain. That's the beauty of a molding. Any molding rubber is it picks up every little flaw even. So if you don't have the part as accurate as you want, but from this point on, it's a piece of cake. From this point on, we should be able to make crutches in a matter of a very short time, and never have to deal with the fact that they get oil soaked or that the blind nuts get loose or anything like that. Now we're ready to pull this apart. I just want to clean off the table. Little bits of glue because I don't want to get any scratches or imperfections on the part of the mold that's going to matter. And now this part should, if I peel it at a corner and peel it real slow, and you just can't rip it apart. You've got to kind of work it slow. Now we have a couple little areas here that I need to trim with a razor, but other than that, I think we've got a pretty good replication there. The little piece where I didn't seal it here, it's certainly not a significant thing, but I can trim this. This is the only bad spot on the whole mold, so I guess we're getting better as time goes by. Which is usually the case no matter what the discipline is. I think we're ready to make lay up a crutch. Significant is the plug is in perfect condition, so we can make, even if we wanted to make another mold, if we want to make one with a little bit shorter spacing, and it would pay to do that. The other thing, you could make them all small and grind them, and then that just, it kind of defeats the purpose of molding when you have to do sanding and grinding and stuff. So we're going to see if this is going to work for Les's design, for my design. It certainly fits a Miss Ashley. It fits a lot of the designs that are, it probably fits an SV11, I'm not sure. Anyway, and we're going to mold one of these up either later today or tomorrow. I'm not sure when we're going to get a gap in the time, but having a mold ready to go is a significant thing. Now what I wanted to do today, I wanted to clear out some space in a garage. I wanted to run the engines in the B25, and because it's been raining on and off and we get puddles everywhere and the field is half underwater, I just thought today would be a good day to take care of this, kind of get some of this stuff moved around. And even if it's pouring rain, I have a giant exhaust fan in the roof. I would be able to even run it, if in the worst of all worlds, a little bit, run it right in here. Well, as I thought, I'm trying to come up with a way because it really looks like it's going to rain any minute. I'm actually bolting the stooge right to the table, even though I have these safety chocks here and I have the nose canted up. Again, we're going to find out if this is going to be practical or not. The whole idea of this is I don't want to be crawling around on my knees and second of all out and sucking up all that dirt. This keeps the engines up off the ground. So I just need to see if I can get the stooge put in place, and then I can start working on this. And that looks like it'll be a reasonable way to mount this. But we're sure not losing a flying day here. But 2 days from now, 3 days from now, we're going to be flying this. One way or another, we're going to be flying this. Okay, I wanted to make sure of two things, that I have the dead stop set. I learned a couple of things real important. First off, I tried to start it when it was at idle, and it's very difficult to start at idle. So the trick here will be, I watch the servo. We always start it at wide open. And I took the cowling off. I just wanted to, when I'm all done, see that nothing's going on crazy in there. Anyway, that engine in the bank. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'll pull a cowling off the other one. Again, I want to take, just take my time and get this so it's really idle and nice and everything before I go out to the field.
So I turned my cab into the driveway, past the gate and the fine trim lawn. And she said, we must get together, but I knew it never be a...
The one thing I learned is you can't start this unless it's at full throttle. It just doesn't want to pop at all. Remember, these carburetors are much bigger than Venturi's would be for this size engine. So it really doesn't want to, well, we're going to find out. We always use the electric start too. It's got to be wet. But this is all the stuff I wanted to have a table for. Because if I was on my knees right now, I'd be like a gorilla. Alright, if worse comes to worse, we always have the electric starter. Now see, this engine is running much richer than the other one. So what happens, as soon as I'm just going to shut it off, I got to get in there and lean out. I got to take the cowling off to do it. Lean out this motor on the slow side, because as it goes to get up onto full throttle, like the 4-strokes do, it's running too rich. Now, one of the few things I learned, this engine needed a new plug. I put a brand new Thunderbolt long RC plug in there. This one needs the idle adjusted also. Now what I'm doing, I'm going to go back, and I'll do it off camera. We're at the end of the tape. I got to get this one running, and I also want to have it that right at the very end I can shut both of them off. That lever goes right to the end, and then the last little click shuts the motors off. Again, it's a good day to do this because there's not much else. See, I did this test too just to keep some oil off the plane, but I didn't put it on this side. Well, you can see. But this is not a tune pipe plane. We're going to have to wipe it off at the end of the day, and that's why we have that stand. That's why we needed this rack. Just here's a good comparison. Here's the side that had the little rubber thing on. Here's the side that didn't. So maybe we're going to have to fit some kind of little elbows on here. I'm not sure. Certainly don't like the blue ones, but maybe we could come up with some pieces of tubing just to get the oil away from the plane. Look at this, nothing. And this side looks like you took a bath. Looks like an old Fox 35 plane. But anyway, the reason we had this, we were adjusting the carburetors, and this is really critical to have these, to be able to adjust the carburetors and be handy and have the work table so we can go back and forth. This really makes working on a plane, well, not a pleasure, but at least doable. You don't see it on the tape, but this consumed the better part of a day. I hope we got a lot of it sorted out. Just a couple of days from today, we're going to be hopefully down a field and get that elusive test flight that we've been waiting all summer for. Hope to see you on the next tape. Now back in the shop, I finally found some, at least they aren't blue. Those exhaust things were making me crazy that they were blue. Well, we're charging up all the batteries, and it's just a waiting game now for a day to fly it. There isn't much else we can do. Both motors were running. I'm not sure how this is going to perform, you know, when we actually get to the field, but hey, it'll be exciting, and hey, I hope you'll enjoy it as much as we are. We're coming up on the end of a really great adventure, and I can't tell you how I'm looking forward to flying this. Just hope the weather cooperates. Hope we're going to get a couple decent days up there at the paved field.